All right, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus back with my boy YoruStrix, and this is the Theorycast. I don't know if anybody's ever done a quote unquote Theorycast before, have they?
Probably. The
Yeah,
internet's
they
big.
probably just didn't call it that, but I want to call it a Theorycast because I like calling it a cast. I don't know why. Anyway, so we had our spoiler discussion where we talked about the Force Awakens in depth. Now let's get to the stuff that would have kept us here for 4 hours for that video had we put that in there. These are our theories. So I'll let you go first with what are your theories that you have for the movie?
All right.
But we're gonna try to keep this. All right, I'm gonna try to, let's say we both do 3 of our major theories. That way we won't make this a ridiculously long theory cast. Because if I talk about all my theories, like I can tell you now, between the time that Finn showed up until they ran into Han, that's about 4 or 5 for me right there. So I'm going to limit us to 3. Does that sound good?
Sure. I gotta figure out which one.
All right, so we're gonna try to. Let's put it this way: I'm not limiting us. We're gonna try to. Probably gonna end up being way more, but hey, we're gonna attempt this. We're gonna attempt this. So, what was your first? Let's just go this way. What was the first theory that you came up with as you were watching the movie? What stood out to you that made you think about something that was a possibility?
All right.
This is the first thing that clicked in your head.
See, that's what's really difficult because I'm trying to think of the because like we said, there's so many just small pieces of things. I'm trying to think what's the first one that I really.
All right, then fuck it. We ain't doing this limited shit. We'll just.
You do it. How about you start it? Because I gotta.
Right. So from the beginning, hell, not from the beginning, from before I even saw the movie, I already had some questions in my head, wondering as far as the direction where they were gonna go with certain people's storylines, as far as where did Finn come from, who is he, who is his connection. I'd always had the theory that he was probably someone with Jedi powers. I think all of us kind of had that when they showed him. It's like, okay, he's possibly the next Jedi. What the movie introduced to me was the theory that he's not necessarily going to be a Jedi. It's 2 things with Finn. For one is the one thing that I think is constant of both my theories is that he's in tune with the Force in some way. That being said, either he's kind of more close to the lines of maybe how they displayed Leia, where he's Force sensitive, but he's not necessarily that strong with it to where he could become a Jedi Knight. The second would be that he has the potential to be a Jedi Knight as well, but I feel like his path is going to go a lot slower and rougher as time goes on, because as we saw, Rey was very strong with the Force, and it's clear that she is going to be a Jedi Knight. The question is, what's Finn's place? And I honestly think that once we get to the end, he's going to display some type of connection to the Force, but I'm not sure how significant his part is going to be. That's why I waver between those 2 theories as far as him, because when they were showing him, it's he's a different. He kind of broke his training, so where are they going to go with that? One theory is that he's going to end up being someone who was stolen from someone of significance, like we were talking about, possibly he's Lando's son. But it's going to be interesting to see like if how far they're going to go deep down into the background of him and where he comes from. But I think at the end, wherever he's going to come from, there's going to be some type of force tie to him, at least, even if it's like he's Lando's son and before he got stolen, he spent time with the Skywalkers and Luke recognized something in him before he got snatched or something like that. Yeah. But I do feel like he has some type of connection, even if it's like a minimum connection to the Force.
I don't know. I'm conflicted. I think because I think that there is to some degree that Finn is more than just sensitive to the Force. Because of the idea that's presented, I guess, within the film, of that Kilo isn't the only Force user for the dark side. And if we want to argue about the whole balance and like towards the balance of the Force, it presents the idea that theoretically, yeah, Rey could be strong enough to single-handedly quote-unquote rebalance the Force, but I disagree. I think that to some, like, I think that he may be a Force user that doesn't use a lightsaber. We might get somebody that, like, where a lightsaber or a melee weapon isn't their primary weapon.
Yeah, I could see that. Because they, if I remember correctly from the books, there were people who were Force sensitive, with not necessarily Jedis who worked along with the Order. Just like I feel like the character played by Lupita, I need to look up the name of the goddamn character because I need to know like what's her name. But I feel like she's in tune with the Force. Like I don't think that she's a Jedi Master, or anything like that. But I do think that she has some type of Maz. That's her name, Maz. I feel like she is a very like she can detect people who have the Force. You know, I feel like she's probably like gonna be like that liaison for Luke as time goes on, who can kind of like run into people who have Force powers and kind of can alert him. Because I think that's one of the things that we're going to find out as far as theories is that that's going to be her major role. Is she's going to have that role of being able to let Luke know, hey, this person has it in them and they may be a potential Jedi. I think that's her thing. Because we heard that Luke was trying to find the temples. Again, again, another theory. Why would he be trying to find the temples unless he's trying to resurrect the Jedi Order?
Well, I agree, but I think do you think it's just that he's trying to resurrect or the Order, or do you think that he's also possibly looking for other survivors?
That
maybe there are other people.
But I think for him, the temple is important because his failure with Ben, I feel like he feels like he needs a place in which the light is strong. And what other place than a Jedi temple? True. Where you can kind of focus someone. I think he feels like if he could find the temples and resurrect them, he can like start to restore the lore, so to speak, kind of reestablish his connection with the light. Because I feel like part of the reason why Luke ran is that he probably feels like I tried to save my father, and while I was able to pull him slightly back to the light, it was too late. I went to train my nephew, and no matter what I did, I couldn't draw him from the darkness that plagued our family, our bloodline. So maybe he doesn't feel like he's strong enough without a center of the power of light.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's his that's why he drew himself away, because he wanted to get more connected with light. Because he may feel like, hey, did I fail because I'm like my father? You know what I mean?
And I mean, I guess that's part of. I think that's going to be explored more in the next movie. I think that it's so much of the movie is going to be because this entire movie, a lot of it was Luke setting up that Luke left, and kind of the ideas behind why he left. But we all understand that going back to his last conversation with Yoda, where Yoda basically says that if he leaves, well, one of his last conversations, I guess, say, if he leaves, then that's leading him down the path to the dark side. Like he's basically throwing away all that they're currently working towards, and it will end up badly. And to some degree, I guess you could say Kilo is the fulfillment of that statement. But as Star Wars has proven time and time again, just because one person connects doesn't necessarily mean that it's the actual fulfillment. I don't know. Like, I also think that, at least in the case of Finn, because of so right now at the end of the movie, he's left in a coma, right? Now it could be JJ's just trying to direct people or misdirect people and tell people they're wrong or whatever. But I'm thinking we may get sequences where his rather than Rey, who's awakening, is more brought about through action and through combat and through interaction, outside interaction, I guess I should say. Finn's is going to be more of an internal thing, where this coma is going to give a lot of Finn's backstory. He's going to recognize how he's different, who he is, because I mean he was basically brainwashed as a kid into being Stormtrooper after he was taken from his family. I mean I don't. And that's the weird thing. Like I think, how to say this. I think you're onto something. I think that it's fully possible that he's simply force sensitive. I think it's fully possible that Luke is just looking for the temples to find a place that he feels is more fitting or safe, I guess, to train Jedi. But even still, did the location we see at the end of the film look like? And again, you can always say, why would a Jedi temple necessarily look like a Jedi temple? But that didn't look like a Jedi temple necessarily.
No, but it also makes sense that it would be in a place kind of like that,
Peaceful,
because it would be kind of ruined. You know what I mean? And a place that's peaceful, serene, calm would be the best place to do that.
I don't know. I guess. Well, and here's what I ask you. So, are you 100% that he's at least force sensitive?
See, I'm not 100, only because the fact that once they got to the part where they started to draw on like who can find the force, it was Rey who was basically the person.
And no, I'm not as.
But at the same time, again, it's like go back to the original movies. You had no clue whatsoever that Leia had any ties to the Force until the end of Empire Strikes Back, when she kind of sensed that Luke was in trouble.
Well, let me ask you this question. Because again, I think you have a far better grasp on the expanded universe, and what's happened there. Has there been an instance where a stormtrooper has single-handedly overcome their program? Like just what they've been taught, they've been trained, they've just by themselves made the decision to not do it.
I'm looking up just to make sure that I remember. Kyle Katarn. Cal Katarn was the star of a Star Wars game. Do you remember Dark Forces 2? It's an old game. It really is old. Okay, so this is
say no.
So
but I'm also gonna assume that because I was also 3 when it came out, so I'm gonna definitely go with no.
Yeah, it's a game called Star Wars Jedi Dark Forces 2. It was one of the first games that really, really got fighting as a Jedi right, in my opinion. You played as Cal Katarn, who his story is that he's a former stormtrooper.
Okay.
But he was like kind of like the Han Solo type story. Former stormtrooper turned
yeah,
renegade, whatever, who became a Jedi. He probably fortunately became a Jedi, and he is probably that one person. So I believe he's still canon. Well, hold on. Did they decanon? No, because I'm trying to figure out. Did they decanonize the games as well?
I believe so.
Like the LucasArts games? Because if that's so, then it's possible that Finn could be Cal Katarn.
Because there's that. I mean, we mentioned that there's a lot of
it would make sense that
parallels.
He could be a Jedi, but not necessarily as strong as Rey, because Cal isn't. If from what I can remember, he's not one of the stronger ones. Like in the game, he's of course like did his thing. He took out some Siths, but I think like in the rankings of strength of Jedi, I don't recall him being one of the stronger ones in the order, in the new order. So so yeah, it could, that happened, and there may have been another person. I mean, because there's been stories
and that's the thing. I don't want to say that it's impossible, but I think the idea is we've generally been presented consistently, at least within the movies, and just for the most part, most stormtroopers don't defect just out of the blue.
Yeah, because see, a lot of people, and I kind of fucking hate the prequels for this. A lot of people are now like, I think one of the problems with the blowback on Finn was the idea that, hey, these are supposed to be clones, but it makes sense to say that, hey, after the Clone Wars, they weren't just pumping out clones for the last 20 years leading up to New Hope. Couldn't it have been possible that now that we are the Federation, that they would use, the Imperial Empire, that we would use
people would sign
already up people who are like part of the Republic as troops, as our troops? People who didn't like leave or defect.
Well, I mean, I think it would be obvious. The Emperor would obviously recognize that if anybody else could get in a position of power like he did, they could simply turn a clone army against him. I don't think that it would be smart. Like, it wouldn't be a smart idea anyway.
No.
Now, saying all that, I don't necessarily think it's just clones. I think to some degree there are clones left, but solely clones. Because that's part of Finn's backstory. That Finn was clearly the First Order is stealing children.
Yeah. They're feeding their rank. They've been feeding their ranks. And it also makes sense that, like, that would probably be the way it is, the easier way to do things for them.
Yeah.
Since, like, the fall of the Empire, you might not find many people willing to openly join a new faction. But no, it's kind of like silly to think that for all this time they've just been pumping out clones. There are people who want to work for the Empire for whatever reason. You know what I mean? But here, like, in order to be a part of the First Order, they need to manipulate your mind. So that makes sense. But no, it's quite possible because, like I was about to say, one of the things is that you found a lot of people in the aftermath found their powers late. Like there was a former guy who was in Luke's fighter squadron who actually found out that he later on had force powers and became a Jedi. So it could be just the case that right now we're not necessarily sure with Finn, but like just something could happen to awaken it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I really think that's I think that has a lot to do with the coma he's or comatose state he's in. I think that's really gonna be when he becomes at least, because like how Rey kind of over the course of the movie, Rey becomes aware that she has force powers. I think that's what the comatose state is going to do for Finn.
So yeah, like, it just all of a sudden, like him being in a coma, it just starts to,
Well, it's that idea presented that your mind in a comatose state or when you're sleeping is it's more of your subconscious and the idea of what the force is and presented. Like it's the idea of that would be an opportunity for you to, especially with all the stuff that's recently happened to him and the idea that he has now been in ridiculously close combat with force users and the force has been directly used, like that type of energy. Like it's that idea of him being exposed to the energy has finally.
Yeah, no, it makes total. I mean, to me, it makes total sense because it's kind of like Matrix. Neo had no idea who he was until he got drawn into this, and then like Morpheus and them help draw that out.
It's the idea of you don't notice it until you come in direct contact with it. Because again, like I still go back to that early scene in the movie where they're flying through the ship. Both of them come out of that with this idea of doing something almost impossible. Like, right. Yes, Rey's flying was ridiculous, but I mean, how many people and how often do we see people being super accurate? Like the way that Finn was, having just learned how to shoot the guns.
Right.
Like you have somebody that like literally Poe tells him how to do it in the X-Wing and not the X-Wing, in the TIE Fighter. In the TIE Fighter. Not in the TIE Fighter. When they first break out of the ship. And he picks it up and is able to start taking things out and really get it. And then in the Millennium Falcon, which is a completely different system. Like, that's not 100% just normal. That makes sense. Or, like, without reason to believe that there's something more.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just he's gotten lucky enough to be able to hit something. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see his art. I'm very excited to see it. Both of their art. I love the way that they've now done the way they did it. Like with him being in a coma, this perfectly leads to them diverging to find their own way to wherever they have to get. You know what I mean? Instead of having them always joined at the hip, now when Finn wakes up, he's going to probably be helping the Resistance. And he'll discover his path along the way. Rey is now with Luke, and she's going to find her way with Luke, and then they'll come back together somehow, either in the second movie or in the third. So it's gonna be interesting. I like that they did it that way because they give them space. That both of the characters, and it's going to allow them to highlight both characters' journey, which is going to be cool.
Because, like you said, I think it's a story of all three.
Yeah, because they separated Ren too, as far because you remember Snoke said, "Bring him. I need to complete his training."
I think we're actually gonna get the apps chance film wise to see what the dark side training is. Like specifically, what is it?
I didn't think about that, but when you said that, you just made my heart like start beating fast because that would be very, very cool.
Because I'm just like, I think we talked about this when we came out of the movie. The way the movie ends, it sets up, I don't want to call it a training montage, but the opportunity to set up a parallel between the training of Rey, if she trains with Luke, could or could not. Like again, that's very open ended. But that training and the training of Ben, I'm just gonna call him Ben because I'm sorry, Kilo. Like you trying to sound like a badass. I'm gonna need you to stop. Your name is Ben.
Yeah,
but the two of them, and I think that, I mean, but again, that's a harken back to the Sith with the ideas of that the Order of Ren, and everybody has the name Ren in it. Everybody is a Darth whatever when you're a Sith Lord and a part of it. Like, yeah, it's a
that brings
callback.
up a good question that comes to mind because I remember in the interview that Adam Driver did, he was saying like he doesn't feel like Ren was necessarily a Sith, but more of a kind of closer to a religious fanatic. Like he's kind of bought into the idea of the House of Darth Vader type of thing, not necessarily into being a Sith,
But
so to speak. Do you feel? Do you feel like he kind of is not necessarily destined to become a Sith Lord, but like because of his conflict, he's kind of just trying to live up to a legacy? Like I'm curious to know why he acts the way he acts, because I felt like he really was not. He wasn't sure.
It doesn't, but it doesn't also make sense if theoretically you're going for power. Because, and again, like I think wording is very much it's very clear when Leia says that he didn't turn to the dark side. It's, and much like I would even say to Anakin didn't necessarily turn to the dark side, but was seduced by it. Again, I think it's far more of some Snook in this kind of situation has in some way warped or changed his perception of some situation or situations that he is now the way he is. Because again, like if your idea is being strong and you're being trained by your uncle who beat your grandfather, theoretically speaking, there shouldn't, like the idealization of your grandfather and the idea that you want to be as powerful as him doesn't line up if you're, because what was his overall goal? Is his goal to prove that he's strong? Could he never beat Luke? Was there another pupil that was more powerful than him? Was it somebody that in turn it made him angry that he wasn't the most powerful and he sought ways for power? Is that what it is? But again, why, in theory, unless Luke comes out and maybe Luke went in the exile because Luke starts to and is searching for the first temple because he recognizes that what he understands and thinks about the Force isn't necessarily right. If we think back to it, Luke has done a lot of things that would lead him to the darker side of the Force than light. And maybe it's the idea of teaching to somebody so young as Ben brought out far more of the dark side characteristics and choices, and it's fed from a much darker perspective, or from the jump off it's far darker than what Luke was trained in. I think it's the idea that Kilo's story, like all three stories and at the end of the day, are parallels, where I mean you could say that Kilo started off, all three in theory started off in the light. All three, Rey, Ben, and Finn all started off in the light. And I'm gonna need you to stop with the N names, Abrams, No more end names.
I don't think it's like
It's
him.
not it. But they all started off in the
Star
light.
Warsism. Cause think about it. You know, Han. Yeah, that was one. Trying to think who else did he have?
Exactly. I mean, even
Oh
Luke
well,
and
no, it
Leia,
must
but they're
be. Yeah,
twins.
you're right. It must be Abram.
Unless Finn and Ben are twins. I'm not gonna even get into that.
That would be interesting.
But no, I think like.
But that brings up an interesting theory. But finish what you were saying.
I think that it's like all three have this idea of they all started theoretically on an even playing field, whereas Ben was kind of trained from a kid towards the light, but inexplicably ends up in the dark. Rey was not trained at all and ends up ignorant until the older part of her life, which I would make the argument in the fight against Ben, she uses more of the emotional, negative, dark side perception of the Force. And then you have somebody like Finn, whose moral character aligns with the light side, who's not necessarily wanting to fight, who's not necessarily wanting the conflict. But at the same time, he was taken as a child and brainwashed to the darker side, but has recognized that that's incorrect, that that's not right, that there's something off. And it's like three different perspectives that I think all in all are going to have a similar resolution. All are going to come to a different end, saying like they started off at different points, but how similar their endings can be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, see, those two, those things bring me to like other theories that come out. Is like one theory is Rey's Luke's daughter.
And I disagree. I honestly, as I think about it more and more, I don't think that's the case.
But then who the fuck left her? So this is
because this is the point. Like, if we think back to Anakin, was there any indication that Anakin was as powerful as he was with the Force, or in his in family ties anyway?
No, but they made a big deal about her being left by someone.
And this is what I'll say to you. Like, and that's the thing. I think it's
other thing, because like if it's not Luke's,
I think it's too forward. I think it's too far, like, pushed. Like how I commented about the movie, that I thought that Han's death was very much ham-fisted and kind of the situation was put in front of your face. I think that part of that gets you to think that, as opposed to saying, because it was also clear in the conversation that Luke was training more than just Ben. There are more Force users than just Ben, and it stands to reason, because Luke was trained at an older age, he wouldn't turn away people that were at an older age. He very well wouldn't turn away people who were old enough to have kids, were old enough to fall in love, to have a child. And the idea that maybe Luke left her there not because it was his daughter, but because it was one of his pupils, and he couldn't protect the pupils, but he could protect their daughter. Like, I think it's
at least another possible theory would be that she's Kylo's twin. Because going back to the decanonized universe, Leia and Han, they had twins that were very Force sensitive. In the expanded universe, their names were Jaina and Jason Solo. They look similar, which if you look at Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley, both black hair, yeah. So the possibility of them being Jaina and Jason is very, very likely.
And now this is where
the other thing that makes me think that it's a possibility is look at the way Han treated her in the beginning, how he offered her like, hey, you're pretty good at flying and Chewie likes you. Maybe you want to come with us and be on the Falcon.
But I think that is more towards him knowing who she is, not necessarily being his daughter. because to me, the way Leia and Han responded about Ben, the way they were acting, the way they were thinking, the way they were feeling, it doesn't stand to reason that they would.
Yo, did you get knocked off?
Okay. No, I'm still here.
Sorry, you kind of went like
that they wouldn't abandon their daughter.
Well, like again, going back to what you were saying about Luke, though, having other people to train, would it not make sense to get her as far as away because their son, he got snatched up, and they wouldn't want her to possibly be a victim? Like, he could have made the decision, like, yo, I failed with Ben, I'm not going to fail with her, because it's clear that she fucking is way more powerful than Kylo. Like, again, we were talking about it in the spoiler cast. The fact that she's an untrained Jedi and she whooped his ass
through just brute strength, like brute power. It wasn't even like she outsmarted him. No, like she was literally just putting all of her emotion, like energy, and just the force behind what she was doing.
Yeah, she had no skill. She has no skill, but she was able to fuck him up.
Now, I mean, you could also, to some degree, argue that also is tied to Ben's uncertainty.
True, but see, again, let's keep going down my theory lane. Going back to the whole twin thing where you had Jason and Jaina. Jason thought that always kind of felt like he was the more powerful one. So when he went to the dark side and he did what he did, he kind of had a air of like, yo, I'm really, really good at what I do. Jaina was told by Luke and them that she is like destined to be, what was the title that they gave her? It was something crazy like the hand of the Jedi or the arm of the Jedi. Basically, they foresaw her as being the Jedi enforcer. Like, she was the one to fuck the Sith up. Couldn't it be possible that this is what Rey is?
It could be, but I think then that would, but I think that brings a lot more questions, because again, I think the biggest thing is still balance. At the end of the day, is the question that I'm always looking at. All of these stories talk about bringing balance to the Force. Now, you could always say that the prophecy in and of itself is just an explanation of the cycle, that inexplicably, as time goes on, the Force will continually become unbalanced, and that the balance is only for a brief period of time. But I think that, to me, her being an enforcer, you have to have somebody equally as powerful on the other side.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still, like Snoke said, he needs to be trained. And I think part of what Snoke is saying, not necessarily that he needs to be trained in his skill, but more like in his resolve, because you clearly see he's fighting. And like when you get to the Han Solo part and he kills him, he's like, before he kills Han Solo, his whole thing is, I need you to do something for me because I'm going through something and there's only one way to fix it. It's clear that he felt like if he can get his father, his connection to his parents out of his system, then he has no reason to be conflicted between light and dark. So that could be part of what Snoke is kind of hinting to, as well as like, okay, we need to get like any good out of his fucking system. He needs to become pure Sith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see.
I guess you could make the argument that what he did at this point, he's pretty much mentally unstable. He's no longer sane, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's literally got issues that he's fighting with. But he clearly wants to be on, the dark side, which going back to like his interaction with Darth Vader's burned up helmet, is like he wants to be Darth Vader before Darth Vader was redeemed. He's like obsessed with being that. But maybe that's not in him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting to see how that's gonna shake out. Like,
seriously,
how all of that's going to shake. It's like so many places they can go. Like I've told you, they kind of hinted to some of the stuff that happened, but it was like changes, such as with Han dying, 2 in the expanded stuff that was decanonized, Chewie was the one to die. But Han dying has a bigger impact since his children are around.
Yeah.
Because like Chewie, him dying, he sacrificed himself in the middle of a war that they were losing to help them continue to fight and eventually win. With Han dying, this is just like, this kind of shakes up things. It helps.
I think what it does is how to say this? It is focusing the story around kind of the Skywalker solo, like that. Star Wars is almost the tale of this family, of people of this bloodline. The people around them, that family is constantly in turmoil, which again would go back to the idea of cousins, brother and sister, however you want to look at it, fighting one another.
See, and this is why I think she's a Skywalker. I seriously think she's a Skywalker. I seriously think she's of the blood.
I mean, you could argue that her mother, Luke, like that scene that you see with Luke, where in the flashback where Luke has his hand on R2-D2, then it cuts to the Knights of Ren and all the dead people. You could, in theory, argue that Luke is saving his wife and daughter, and all of his other pupils die because of it. He chooses to help them rather than save the rest of his pupils and to get them away. And then her mother drops her off, but her mother ends up getting caught and is killed. She recognized that. She felt that as a child and realizes that her mother isn't going back, but that her being naive still wants to wait and believe that she's coming back. Because that was a very important moment between the two of them, where they both sat down, where the woman that had Luke's lightsaber said, "You've always known that that person you're waiting for isn't coming back." And I think that's clearly a call out to the Force, which we see later when Han dies. Like the idea that when somebody you love, that you care about that much, dies and you're Force sensitive, you feel it, regardless of where they are.
All right.
And yeah, I think it's because it doesn't make as much sense to me why Luke would leave his daughter.
Well, again, I go back to the theory that it's like, well, again, going back to the expanded universe, he was, after he had his stint with the dark side, and oddly enough, his redemption came partially because of his love of an ex Sith assassin. He realized that one of the problems with the Jedi Order is that they by the way, now that I'm saying this, it's going to sound really like an indignation of the religious beliefs, but he realized that denying people with the power of the Force who wanted to be Jedi the opportunity to experience love and passion and to have relationships with other people, he felt like was wrong. He felt like, you know, part of the problem is that we deny people of their natural human desires. And instead of doing that, we should encourage you to be, you know, to seek love, to seek, you know, that passion, you know, and to let you live. Because how else are we gonna? Why should we ask you to be this totally pure being that devoids themselves of, like, you know, common human traits, and not expect you to have issue with your, you know, have issues arise where, like, when something comes up of that part is either, I mean, because it kind of, if you think about it, when you deny yourself of those things, you kind of make it easy for bad shit to come out. You know what I mean? It's like, how easy is it for the Sith to manipulate somebody who all their lives deny themselves certain positives in life? You know, you can easily seduce somebody who's like, yo, you know, you deserve to have this. You need to have this. We give you everything you want in life. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's why I'm thinking, and this is part of the reason why I feel like that's his daughter, because I feel like within that 30 years, he made that decision as to going forward for the Jedi and kind of encouraged that. But Kylo fucked up shit so much that I feel like he wants to protect her. And again, he may be, Luke is pretty much the most powerful Jedi there is right now. He could foresee a problem with having her around, that he needed to hide her, daughter or not his daughter. You know what I mean? Because keeping her around Kylo and people like Snoke, who obviously their goal is to destroy the Jedi Order and make sure that the, you know, dark side dominates. You don't want her around for them to get their hands on. You know what I mean? But it will be interesting to see how they move forward with that. What's wrong?
Me being me, if you check the chat right quick. Me being me and looking into information, basically, there are some slight differences that have come out between the book of the movie and the movie itself, apparently. And actually, a couple of things we've mentioned have actually, to some degree, depending on how closely the book is meant to tie in, they touch on a few things. And I was just sending it to Blak to see what kind of get his feelings on it. What the book seems to confirm is that Kilo knows who Rey is. So that's the first one. Like, but is not, like, he recognizes who she is in the sense of they've known each other previously before, like, just the moments they know. And then there's also mention, let me see, what's the other one? Where did I put the link? When you have too many links open. And then the idea that whoever left Rey was a family member of some description, anyway.
Yeah, and you know, she kind of acts like, you know, someone close to her left her. You know, that's why she seems to be like so desperately waiting for them to come back.
And now this makes me want to go read the book because there's a lot of things you can do in a book that you can't do in a movie because of time constraints. Oh my goodness. I mean, we've gone down the entirety of the origins route and we haven't even gotten to it. Like an argument. Do you think that in reality, Snook is one of those Sith Lords? Do you really think that Palpatine was in that much control that there wasn't another Sith Lord around?
No, I think the Sith were definitely still around. I think that he may not have necessarily been connected with some of the other Sith, but definitely there was a Sith. There's a Sith. I guess you could say order. I don't think they call themselves the. Yeah, no, they call themselves the Order of the Sith. So where? That's a good question. Because if you think about back to the prequels, where he was like turning Anakin, and he would tell him stories about different Sith Lords and things like that, and their powers. There is some type of Sith lore kept for him to know those stories. He didn't just get that story out of the air. So his master, passed that story down to him. And I'm sure his master passed it down to him, so forth and so on. And so how deep the Sith are, I don't know, but I think Snoke is definitely one of those Sith who was a part of a larger group of Sith who will surface. That's again, goes to one of my theories. That as we move on to episode 9, we're not just going to get the traditional, okay, this is the final run on whatever weapon planet that they are. I honestly think that when we get there, we're one of the biggest parts of the battle is going to be a huge Sith versus Jedi battle.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think because honestly, that's something that hasn't really been explored in the movies, at least. Like we've always seen, basically, clone troopers sneaking up and destroying the Jedi, and Anakin striking down the weaker, younger ones. We've seen a single Jedi versus a single Jedi, or a couple of Jedi Sith interaction, but we've never seen what it would be like if a group of Sith and a group of Jedi go to war. Like literally, this is a battle between Force users, just Force users. Whether that's just raw like lightsaber and Force power, or just Force sensitivity and people that like this idea that these people aren't your normal people.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a way to take this to a new level. Kind of like, I mean, again, you can take the Starkiller base. Like they took the concept of what the Death Star could do and took it to an entirely new level. Yeah. And logically, when it comes to a fight, the next level would be like if there's 7 Knights of Kylo Ren, what happens when you send? All right, that would be badass. I'm actually thinking about that. That would actually be really badass. If it ends up being like 7 Knights of Kylo Ren, or Ren, I shouldn't say Kylo Ren, but 7 Knights of Ren, and then it's like 4 or 5 Jedi, even if it's less than that. Say it's just Finn, Rey, and Luke. Luke is fighting like 5 Jedi at once, I'm just saying that would be amazing if they could coordinate that.
Those 5 people.
No, but I'm saying but that would be a way to show just how powerful he is. If he is single-handedly fighting that, and again, all speculation, theory crafting, the way you would make an impact there is that he is struck, but not killed, obviously, but struck by his nephew. So the person that would be able to seemingly stop him or hold him off would be the now fully realized Sith that is Ben. And then he would conflict with Rey, and the two of them would have their fight. And I think, like we were saying before, Finn would have his battle with what's her face. I'm horrible with names, especially after only 6 words.
Right.
Finn would fight the clone trooper leader of his unit. Like, I think she honestly is Force aware.
Oh, Phasma.
Yeah, I think she has more. She has more to her than just because, again, it's one of those things of like having completely different armor that puts you in a completely different. Like,
honestly, and again, theory, her armor looks Mandalorian. So I'm wondering if she's a Mandalore. And while I don't think this is a possibility, like, is she descendant of Boba or something like that?
maybe.
But I feel like she's possibly a Mandalore, or she's of Mandalorian descent, because her armor kind of reminds me sort of that. Because I can't see them just giving her own great set of armor. You know what I mean? And again, going back to the old expanded universe, Boba did have a daughter.
And we mentioned this during the spoiler cast. If you haven't already noticed, this is what is it? This movie really does take from the expanded universe and make slight changes to it. Like, it's a lot of running themes and ideas that are still there.
Yeah, definitely. Because you could make an argument that the First Order goes to how, like, they used to call them the Imperial Remnant, you know, the forces that after the infighting of the remaining forces, someone took control of them and formed their own group to try to keep the power for themselves. You know, this could be a mirror of, this is definitely kind of a mirror of the Imperial Remnant. It also kind of shades to other forces that tried to dominate the universe over time, and things like that. Yeah, it definitely, they do take some of the ideas of the basis that you got from the expanded universe and use it to flesh out the universe, which is, I think it's a very, very cool thing. Extremely cool. But yeah, it's very interesting because, like, they could just go so many damn places. Because I mean, again, me thinking her being being Skywalker's child. Skywalker had a son who is you know, a Jedi. You know, the idea that she could possibly be the Solo's other child. Like you were saying, there's more Force people out there. Like, who knows? Like, yeah, he put himself in exile, but who did he train before he went to exile?
And that's the thing. I don't know if it, because do you think that he would have taken that break before he trained? Like, because it begs a whole lot of questions. Was Kilo a part of the first class that he decided to train as a Jedi master, or did he try to train people before then? Or were there, like, there's, like you're saying, it's the idea of there's a lot of things that we need to line up, and again, we don't have enough information yet.
Yeah.
What do you think of the idea that the Republic was blown up?
I thought that was kind of a good idea in a sense. Although I kind of wish they would have still left them around. It's a good way of not trying to deal with the issue of the state of the Republic, because for a group like this to be around, there has to be issues in the Republic. And now you don't kind of have to waste time dissecting like you don't have to waste a lot of time, I would say, breaking down why the Republic is in a state where a group like this can actually exist.
But I think I would argue, I think you mentioned it during the spoiler cast, the idea that maybe the resistance, because as the Republic, they wouldn't be trying to declare open war on the First Order, which me just saying that brought up a whole other thing that I'll bring up afterwards. And so the idea is they can fund and help the resistance. It's something that's timeless in war, where while you cannot directly confront someone or an enemy, you can fund people to fight the war for you. You can fight a proxy war when you can't directly be involved or seen as being involved. And like, because remember, if you think about the dialogue was more of the First Order wanted to destroy the Republic so that they wouldn't be able to shield or help the resistance anymore.
Right. Because they see the resistance as the biggest threat.
Yeah,
clearly,
but they can't get to them.
Right. So, because clearly there's something wrong with the Republic that makes them feel like they have an opportunity to take over. But with Leia and her resistance, they're, like I was saying in the spoiler cast, they kind of play as the intermediaries. You know, instead of being a part of the Republic, they're watching over to make sure they don't fuck up, but to make sure nobody takes them out as well. So they're kind of like I guess you were saying, the Batman of the galaxy.
Now, saying what I was saying, Blak, something crossed my mind. How wording is very specific and very important. Especially in universes like this. The name of the villains in this situation are the First Order. It's not as though the Empire is back. They didn't take on the name of the Republic, which is the previous name or the previous government type that seemed to have power. But very specifically, it's the First Order. And the idea that the supreme leader of it is obviously someone with deep connections to the dark side. Is this a long-running plan? If you want to say that there was a prophecy talking about someone who would bring balance to the Force from the light side, and that always seemingly being a Skywalker, would it not be possible that from the Sith perspective, there's a prophecy, there's this idea of they can find controls in other ways, and the idea is they can control or have a plan set up to, and the First Order is that idea of it. Reality is harkening back to the Sith. Like we're it's not this or that. I mean, it could just be a name, but at the same time, I think the name has a lot more meaning, especially with the people that seem to be heading it up. That the idea of the First Order is almost them talking about and harkening to the ancient nature of the Sith.
Yeah, it could be that he's established, and this could lead to the theory that maybe Phasma has some type of connection with the Force as well. But it could be that this is just Snoke and the rest of the Sith establishing their own, quote unquote regular martial arm, so to speak. Building a bunch of ground troops and staff that can protect them, that can take care of just the regular stuff, and then people like Ren and whoever they have, if they need to like work, get certain things done, they can step in and take care of the bigger stuff. It could be like, the Sith are trying to establish a bigger hold than just having Emperor Palpatine run things.
Oh my goodness.
He said, "Oh my goodness, something's going on."
It's like, and this is the issue with a theory cast. Now, why I also suggested separating it into a bunch of parts. especially when you start theory crafting. Theory crafting is like, I forget the name of the theory, but it's the idea of wherever there are two possible, wherever like you make a choice, the timeline divides, and reality is essentially split that at that instant. And that's kind of explains theory crafting, except the rabbit hole never stops, because the shifting of one choice changes the shifting of every other choice. And so like when you start thinking about just anything, and it could be a mundane detail, like if you want to argue about if you want to argue Rey's origins, you could argue the fact that the lightsaber seemingly chose her.
Yeah.
That very last scene when it seems to be calling out, you could argue that they're both in a sense pulling at the lightsaber of Luke or even Anakin Skywalker. If they're both Skywalkers, they're both pulling at the lightsaber of their grandfather. Because we see Ren have that moment earlier in the film where he is specifically asking Darksider to show Darth Vader to show him how, like, to help him with the dark side, to understand it, to be more powerful, and to asking him to be as powerful as he is. And yet it's almost as though you could take that scene to say, well, the lightsaber at the end of the day knew Anakin, or knew the idea that the Skywalkers at the end of the day are still good people, and went to the idea of, like, it's that idea of who's, because even the choice of dialogue that immediately Ben states that that's his right, like during the fight, that it, like when he sees Finn light up the saber, to give it to him, it's his. And it's that idea of that one scene has a lot of weight, almost in saying, like, there is a legitimate claim as of Rin to that saber, whether it be philosophically or be it literally. She has a more fitting claim to that saber, is what you could take from that scene. But again, like, that would be an argument towards her origin, whether she is the spiritual successor or the literal successor of Anakin and Luke Skywalker. Whether like it's, and that's why I said, oh my, because I'm sitting down now, not thinking necessarily of just the movie so much as the little lines of dialogue that I caught that I never paid much mind to, where they go in one ear and I'm hearing them, I'm listening to them, but I'm so focused on the story I'm being told that I'm not paying attention. And it's stuff like that, where the choice of words, the First Order, where that situation, where, I mean, I would argue, why does, even if Han was the way he was, why is Leia, who is clearly concerned about Ben, why is she seemingly not concerned about Rey?
And see, but a possible answer is that she knows Rey, being force sensitive herself. She may have foretold Rey's path, like her not being a knight. She could be kind of like, what's the name of the character? God damn it, I keep forgetting the name. What is it, Mava or something like that? God damn it, what is your name? Maze. Yeah, she could be like Maze, and kind of her power is foreseeing like people's path or what they are.
And I think, and I know, I guess that idea brings up, well, again, like, is it that she was so fearful of her daughter? And again, something else from the book, the idea that, and again, all of this, I would honestly, as I've been looking around, reading stuff as we've been talking, that there is a very clear idea presented that when in Han and Leia's conversation, they met at a point where Leia and Han both know who Snoke is. And Leia makes the point that Snoke had been planning and watching their son, which to me means why wouldn't he know that they had a daughter as well? Like, it's the idea of there's some reason why people are now just recognizing that Rey exists. Or still exists, I guess could be a way to say it.
Yeah.
Of thinking that she is somebody that should have been dead.
Yeah, somehow I feel like she's protected. I mean, and she could not be family. Again, like you were saying, like the idea of that he wasn't just training one, and that when Kylo Ren flipped out, he killed off some people that Luke couldn't protect. Like his best way was to protect the student because there was something about the student. So it'll be interesting to see where they're gonna, because the way he looked at her when she presented the lightsaber, it just made you like he had this look of like, okay, it's you to me. Like he is like, it's you, and he kind of knew it was always going to be her. So it's going to be interesting. And to see, this is where like I'm just like to kind of end my run on theories. This is like the fucking ridiculously grand idea that I had, because again, I feel like she's kind of like the quote unquote arm of the Jedi, or whatever they call it, the shield of the Jedi, whatever they call Jaina Solo. Like she is the one to kind of help lead the restoration of the new order. You know, like she's like the one person, like where I feel like Luke realized his mistake in thinking that his nephew would be it. I think he realizes, or he knew, that eventually he would get her, who's going to be like that catalyst to the resurrection of the Jedi Knights. I feel like she's going to be that lightning rod. I feel like Snoke is going to turn Kylo into his version. I'm not sure how many other Sith we may see. We may not even see anymore. It could be they could just use those stormtroopers who have the weapons that can block lightsabers and like train them how to completely combat a Jedi. That also kind of falls into my theory that maybe Phasma, you know, the leader of the Imperial Stormtroopers, could be a Mandalore. Again, going back to people like Boba Fett and other Mandalores that showed up in the expanded universe, they kind of trained themselves and they kind of had a knowledge on how to fight Jedi. That was one of their things. It's like they kind of figured it out. Like Boba Fett, as the expanded universe went on, he was known for his prowess at killing Jedi. And things like that. So it could be a situation like she's like going to train those. That's why the First Order is who they are. It's like with the help of Ren and her, they're going to be the people who can combat Jedi. Things like that. It's like I'm very, very hopeful for what we could see, because all these theories that we're throwing out here, all these possibilities, they could be 100% wrong. I could sound like an idiot. But I think that's one of the great things about this movie, and I'll say it again, it's like it's the perfect setup movie, because it leaves you wanting more, and it leaves open like a path to an extraordinary possibility. And I know you're over there reading something else. What are you reading?
So it's not just it's this idea that I could tell you right now that if you ask me these same questions and ideas 6 months from now, or when the DVD of this movie drops, they would be complete. I could probably give you completely different theories and ideas. I could probably sit and watch the movies 100 times and know at the end of the day, I'm still going to miss some detail.
Yeah, like one of the stories you said about the R2 thing, I read that earlier, and it's like, okay, I get that. You know, Abrams and Kasdan could possibly weave this thing to have so many nuances and so many like things that you will miss that it will fucking make you go insane. Because even though Abrams isn't directing the next movie, him and Lawrence Kasdan, who worked on Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they could continually keep to the threads that he put out in his movie and just fucking just wreck your mind. Like, my mind's already fucked up because there's so many things going through my head. And I'm just like totally anticipating. So good job on you, because you've made like a fictional theorist.
Like, I'm not even trying to necessarily take like another, like, I'm looking at something right now and somebody makes the point of we're getting the opposite story of what we've gotten almost in the previous two trilogies, where it's the allure of the dark side, right? Like, that's what we've been getting in the prequels and the original trilogy, of resisting the dark side. But when you look at somebody like Ben Kylo Ren or whatever, his idea, because I've been seeing people post this a lot about when he has the conversation with Vader's helmet, he clearly talks about how he's being, again, the wording is very specific, seduced by the light side, or to help him resist that seduction. Like, the same word, like, for a long time, what we've always heard is being seduced by the dark side, is being tricked, being pulled, being moved towards that dark side. And with the idea of, in the books and the novels, that Snoke has weaved that mentality since he was a child into him. Well, how powerful is Snoke that Luke didn't notice this when he was training him? Or is it that Luke leaves, again, because he recognized his flawed training that he has? Maybe he looked for better understanding. Well, if he looked for better understanding, and we clearly have somebody who has his lightsaber and has extremely deep understanding, whose age is close to that of Yoda, having lived a full century, having been someone that could easily have had conversations and talk with Yoda, who is incredibly full. Why would you not turn to somebody? Maybe he didn't know that. Maybe they didn't recognize that. But she seems as though she intimately knows Luke, that she knows who all of them are. Like, it's that idea that there's some piece there that's not clicking. And I'm sitting here and I get really quiet because every time the rabbit hole goes a little bit deeper.
Yeah. And see, this is why I figured we should just do this one shot, because I swear to God, if we would have separated this, we would be doing videos like, oh my God.
I mean, we could be doing videos up until the next movie came out, and they could all be wrong in like an instant without any issue.
Yeah, that's why I think this one, like, just get it out of our system now burst to throw out there. Because I have a feeling that this video is going to spark conversation for that 2 years. And I'm not going to be able to answer all the comments because, god damn it, if y'all introduce a new thought to my head, I'm going to fucking go insane. Seriously. Like, seriously. Because I'm sitting here also wondering, has Luke had contact with Snoke before? Does he know how big their organization is? And is that part of the reason why he left? Like, after he lost Ben, he realized the depth of threat that was there,
because
he needed to find this temple so he could try to figure out what would be a better way to combat this, because he may see something bigger coming. It's like, it's a whole lot of fucking shit.
Here's the idea that Snoke is very tied to the Sith, and that the dark side so tightly. Because think about his conversation with Kylo. Like their plan is they can't let Skywalker be found. He can't be allowed to rebuild the Jedi. He can't be like the idea is they fear again, they understand the prophecy of Skywalker, whether it's Anakin, whether it's Luke. Basically, at this point, someone of Skywalker of descent is going to bring balance to the Force.
Yeah.
But like you said, if Snoke is aware of Skywalker, but Skywalker isn't aware of Snoke, is that what his plan was? Steal it. I mean, what better way than to turn your family member away, turn a family member away from the dark side to the point where you question what you're doing. Like there's so many things in that, like it's, oh my God.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting moving forward.
And so, for instance, Hux, for the commander who's not a Force user, the guy that always, every time Ben goes to talk to Snoke, is there with him, like 95% of the time. I think there's maybe one instance where he's not. But why is it that it's almost as though Snoke has these two competing? What does Snoke hope to gain?
True. What is he doing between the two of them? That's a good question. It's a very good question. See, this is like too many fucking questions going on.
Again, and all right, so I mentioned the Snoke idea with the Sith, right? People have speculated specifically back to episode 3 when Palpatine is talking about what many believe to be his master. Like it's Darth Paulidas the Wise, and where he tells the story about him being close to finding basically eternal life and he being killed in his sleep by his underling, and him explaining the story to Anakin during the opera. I mean, it's very likely that makes sense. If you could think about Snoke as this figure that was there back when the Jedi Order was at its height almost, when the Republic seemingly was in control.
Yeah.
Like,
you see, it's also, again, it also makes me think, are we going to be introduced to something that we were introduced in the expanded universe? That there's a planet where the Sith live, where they raise their kids to be Sith? And
I really think that the Sith are out there. Like, and again, that would be something that movie-wise, hasn't been explored. Like most people from the movies would think the Sith are a faction, like the Jedi. But the Sith are very much not just a faction, but a species, a race of beings. And I think that idea could be far more important. Like, if at the end of the day, Luke Skywalker is the last Jedi, right? What can challenge him? But something that is so ancient, so powerful that him in and of himself, he has to fight an evil that he's not even prepared for because he's never faced anything like it. It's something that understands what he does far better.
Yeah, it's damn. And it is, again, drawing from the expanded universe, Luke does disappear from time to time, and one of the reasons is that he travels the galaxy and he finds like different areas of the Force that he never, like different disciplines of the Force, of the light, from different races that are like highly in tune with the Force, and he learns all these disciplines. It's like, could it have been that he was collecting all this knowledge to pass on to someone he felt like, was worthy enough to be the first person to like gain, like he found new methods of training, different ways of doing things so he don't fuck it up again. Things like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like they can just go fucking over the place with it. That's why I said I thought they did a good job of kind of tapping into the essence of the stuff that was decanonized because, you know, Luke not being around, that's part of non-canon stuff now. Han and Leia having a kid, that's force sensitive that turns bad. You know, again, these things have all been manipulated to go in a different route than the stuff that's like, as they call it now, legacy material. But it still draws kind of from that, you know, and gives it a little nod, which I think makes it great. But with that stuff being decanonized, it just opens way too many questions that we're not going to be able to cover tonight or ever. I think, unless we spend every day for the next 365 days. No, fuck that. Every day for the next what?
No, it would be
20 and 30 days.
I will make this point to you. I would take it even beyond that.
Yeah,
What
I
we're
say at least
talking about
730 days because that's about around time when the next movie will be out.
what we're talking about now, a lot of it I don't even know will be addressed in these films. I guarantee you at least a portion of it will end up in the new expanded universe.
Yeah.
Like where they're just books that are going to cover so much information that we don't even.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna be buying a lot of books on Amazon.
Hey, I get a Kindle. It is a great.
Oh, I have
way
one. That's why I said I'm gonna be buying a lot of books on
It's
Amazon because I have a Kindle.
and even with it being decanonized, if you ever wondered, because funnily enough, just a funny fact. Funnily enough, even though it's decanonized, you can get an idea and where they're possibly taking a lot of the story if you read that.
Yeah, definitely. If you have never read any of the legacy stuff, I definitely suggest that you do, or at least go to the Star Wars wiki and look a lot of it up because it's very interesting. It's stuff that they definitely did not touch on yet, but could touch on. It established a lot of things that help form some of at least my theories on where they can go.
Pain.
You know, so. By the way, small note, did you know that Daniel Craig is uncredited?
No, I did not, and that's weird. That is just weird.
Apparently, that guy who she told to take unlock her, the stormtrooper. Apparently, that's Daniel Craig.
Why? Oh my god!
And apparently, the story is that even though no one's officially said it, the on the low thing is that he just wanted to be in it and he wanted to do it just for fun, you know, and not necessarily be recognized for it and like steal its thunder. So
Blak.
maybe Daniel Craig's a fucking Star Wars geek.
Blak. One more thing about Rey's origin.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the Skywalkers.
Mm-hmm.
I thought of another, and you want to talk about people having families and all this other stuff, right? And people not.
She's Wedge Antilles' daughter.
Who's to say she's not a Kenobi?
Ben might have decided in his hiding to fuck a couple of people and
Wow. See, you make it sound so much worse.
I mean, but that would be the way it would have to be because.
And people make a good point. During the flashback, the person that screams her name is the original actor.
The original actor for what?
Obi-Wan.
Can't be. Hold on.
Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Let me make sure the name could be slightly off.
Because I'm thinking Sir Alec Guinness, and I'm like, he's dead.
Look. Lucas was planning this years ago. Oh no, Ewan McGregor.
Okay, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, obviously, if the other person's dead.
Okay, because I was like, wait, pause. Sir Alan Gillis has been dead for a minute. But yeah, maybe like like I said, he had a bastard child who had a child. I mean, he wasn't like the Jedi Order was around to stop him from fucking. Yeah. Okay.
So many questions. I have books to read.
Yeah. Oh man.
I have multiple books to read, which is annoying.
Some you probably should avoid though. Like the Vong War ones. I don't know if you need to read those.
I mean, I'm just talking even about the new stuff because it seems like I need to read the novelization version of the movie. There you have some other things.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot out there. But okay, I think we've theorized enough.
For now.
I mean, let me rephrase that. I think we've gone long enough theorizing. I don't think we're done theorizing. We will never be done theorizing, and I'm sure a lot of you out there will never be done with your theories.
What I'll say is, if we're streaming, by the time these go up, feel free to come through and ask questions because that should be past the spoil.
Yeah.
Don't.
I think I said a month in my review, but it may be just 2 weeks. I feel like you guys,
especially the way people are watching this movie.
Yeah, I feel like people are digesting it extremely fast. To where you may see this a week after the release of the movie. I just want to give some people some breathing time, even though it's the internet. I know there's going to be a jackass that's going to be, you're spoiling it. I haven't seen it yet. And as we said in the spoiler cast, dumb motherfucker. Why would you watch something that says it's a spoiler? This says it's theories. This is not saying this is truth. This is canon. That this is what's going to happen.
Now, the idea is to talk about theories. You have to talk about what has happened, meaning,
yeah,
you're knowingly walking into a spoiler.
Right. As Admiral Aqua would say, it's a trap.
And what I'll tell you is, especially if you're watching something that has been posted after the movie came out, maybe before the movie, you could argue we're talking about what's going to happen in the movie. But no, the movie came out.
Yeah, so be wise, people. Avoid spoiler. But anything else you have to share? I mean, well, again, rephrasing. Anything that you feel like we should share, and even that's bad phrasing, I think. God damn it, too much. Too fucking much.
I'm nowhere near done.
Me neither. But I feel like this is a good place to lead it because we've talked about a lot of things. And I encourage you guys, please share your theories. I would love to see what other people are thinking about this. I think it's going to, this movie, like I said before, I feel like it's a perfect setup movie. And I feel like it's definitely going to lead to a lot of discussion. And, it's going to have the Star Wars universe definitely talking for a while now, until 2017 at least, when we could all get some of our questions answered. Hopefully, possibly.
If it's done anyway the way Abrams did Lost, we're gonna have 30 times more questions at the end.
No, better than man. If you do,
did you think about the fact that he is the man behind Lost? He could very well.
I don't think about that because I didn't watch Lost, but I'm gonna still not.
Oh, trust me, he will make it far more.
Nope, fuck him. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Keep making.
Say that again. You still there? I wonder if it cut him off. Might be good that it cut him off because we're about to go way too far. Prod, you still there? I think it cut his mic off because it knew we were going to continue for another 20 or 30 minutes. So I think that's a perfect way to end this right now. So as usual, please feel free to check out my boy Prod or YoruStrix. I keep calling you Prod. I don't know why, but feel free to check him out at YoruStrix, YoruStrix, and also YoruStrix Gaming. I will put all that stuff in the description. And we probably will do some more Star Wars stuff, but we will be trying to do more of these discussions on different things. I think Jessica Jones is next. Again, thank you guys for coming through. Appreciate it. Hopefully we didn't ruin things. Yep, he just dropped out. But hopefully we didn't ruin things too much for you. If we did, hey, we told you in the description in the beginning. Spoilers, people. Spoilers. Be smart about it. Be smart about it. So I'm going to say bye for my boy Prod. You guys take care. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll holler at you later. Deuces.